Now that we are several days into the release of early access for Mad World Age of Darkness, I think we can take a closer look at some of these systems Mad World has to offer. Players are currently locked to Act 3 in the main storyline, which has led some players to hit that soft cap and think, well, what can I do now? Well, there's several things you can do to optimize your character. And if you're a new player anxiously awaiting Mad World becoming free to play, this is going to be your crash course to help you minimize mistakes when building your character as well. So, in this video, I'm going to be covering gear, skills, and potentials. But before we do, I want to let you know that I will be releasing weekly Mad World videos on this channel, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. The first thing I want to talk about in this video is gear. Now, if you're at all familiar with Mad World or you're brand new, I think that gear is probably going to be the first thing you look at when you get into the game. And I think it's important to know that gear drops very, very commonly in the game. If you do a single run of any dungeon, your inventory is going to fill up multiple times over with a huge variety of different gear. But how do you know what's best for you? How do you know what to keep and how do you know what to dismantle? Well, the first option for you is probably going to be to pick a goal. What do you want to play in Mad World? Right now, the game isn't completely optimized, so you can get away with almost anything you want. But if you're looking for a little bit of a tier list, I definitely have to say that bows are on top, mage is probably in the middle, and then melee, unfortunately, is lagging a little bit behind the other builds in game right now. All right, so in Mad World, there are your typical rarity tiers from common to legendary. There are also a few special ones. As you can see, here's an example of a treasure class item. There's also hero class items, and then there's also a green rarity, which is used by crafting with boss drops. But for the most part, you're probably dealing with the typical common through legendary. As you can see, my ring is a legendary ring. It is the red color that you're probably going to want to aim for in the long run. But each piece of gear in Mad World has stats that you're going to need to allocate on your character sheet in order to equip them. An easy way to do this is to just auto sort your stats and it will automatically put in all the points you need to equip all of your current gear. That's probably the easiest way to keep track of that. But obviously, you could keep track just by hovering over the item and then reading off what it needs. So as you can see, this one has mind at 58 and physical at 29 in order to equip it. Now, crafting is another really big component of making sure your gear is as good as it can be. If you're missing a piece or your piece of gear is under leveled or it's just, didn't roll very well, I think that crafting is definitely the way to go. As you can see, here we have the weapons category. Obviously, you can go through and sort through all the different weapons in game. And then we have heavy armor, we have light armor, and then we have cloth. Cloth is your highest DPS. Light armor is sort of in the middle, a little bit tankier. And then this is obviously heavy armor is going to be the tankiest that you can get. So if you're missing a piece from your set and you really need a new item, I think that crafting is definitely the way to go. You can also craft really, really good weapons. I will actually do one quick craft and see if I manage to get anything decent here. But as you can see, the process is fairly simple. Unfortunately, didn't really get what I needed there. Was looking for a legendary bow, wasn't able to quite get it. But again, this is where you're going to want to sort of min max your build a little bit. It's fairly easy to get materials, especially if you're doing dungeon runs on repeat, as you can just dismantle all of the drops you get and then come here and try to craft yourself some new items. Another super important part of optimizing your character is gems. Now, gems are a fairly frequent drop. You're going to see them around the game as you progress through the story, but starting at common, no sockets. Obviously, uncommon has one, rare has two, unique has three, and then legendary caps out at four sockets. So, obviously, you're probably going to want to aim for rare plus in terms of what gear you're going to go into the next act with. But again, it's really important for you to pick up as many gems as you can because you do need to combine them, and it is an RNG mechanic. You will lose some in the process. The next step in optimizing your character is using enhancement. Now, enhancement is another RNG mechanic. If you're familiar with Lost Ark, this is very similar to upgrading your gear in Lost Ark. You can basically just roll to increase the stats on your item. Now, up until +4, there's no chance of destruction, but after that, you will see a slight chance of destruction. So if you're worried and you don't want to spend these supplementary resources like Abyss or Life Essence to protect your item or increase the base success chance, just go to +4. And again, this system goes all the way up to 20. So we're really not going to see that until super, super late game anyway. My recommendation is +4 for the time being. And the final part of enhancing your character would be to convert item attributes. So if you've played Diablo 3, this is a really familiar system to you, but it's a pretty simple system in and of itself. It's just very, very expensive in gold. So you're able to hover over each different stat You have on your item, each item comes with its own unique random attributes, and you're able to see, what else can I get? So a lot of people are rolling for crit right now. So if you want to re-roll, it's definitely pretty easy. As you can see, this is the process uh, in itself. And I actually landed on crit right there. So if I wanted to keep that and keep rolling, all I would have to do is lock it. Now the price does go up. Every time you lock something, the price will go up. Now it's at 24K. Now it's at 30K. This money adds up fast, and I will have a guide for a gold farming method coming out later on, so keep an eye out for that. But for the time being, if you want to re-roll, I'd say maybe do it a couple times. But again, you're probably going to be getting rid of this gear within the next, like, I don't know, act or so. So don't spend a ton of money on this system just yet. All right. So now that we talked about gear, let's talk about skills for a second here. So what are skills in Mad World? They're essentially what you do to deal a good part of your damage. So, how do you get them? Most of your skills when you log into Mad World are going to be locked away. Skills in this game are gotten through source stones. This is a vendor that sells a huge variety of source stones. Now, you may not have access to this yet. This vendor is in Act 3, but the vendors in Act 1 and Act 2 also sell source stones. So, don't feel like you're missing out too much yet. So, might be wondering, these all come at a default level of 3. How do I level them up? Well, it's pretty easy. So, source memories are a drop that is somewhat common. I'd say they're probably about on the same rarity as gems, but you really want to make sure you pick up all of these that you see on the ground, even the ones that you're not planning on using. These are very, very valuable. And again, they're probably going to be a gatekeeper for the late game. So, how do we level it up? Simply right click on your source memory and then click on your source stone. So this is another RNG mechanic. As you can see, I have a 30% chance to level up this source stone. Now, it is important to keep in mind the memory scar and where it's at along this bar here. So if you're buying these source stones from a vendor, it is going to come at a default of 4 memory scars. And what a memory scar is essentially a failure. Um, every failure you get will increase this counter by 1. And once you get to 4, you can no longer roll for this stone to level up. So there are other ways you can buy stones that have a higher scar count. If you use hooks and buy source stones from a hook vendor, you can get a memory stone with 7 memory scars. And I've also received drops, there's RNG drops that have 8. But yeah, if you're rolling for a super high level skill, I would say it's definitely worth it to buy from the vendor that comes with 7 memory scars as a default. So again, all you have to do is hit meld, and you have a chance, a 30% chance with this level of memory to increase the level of this skill. All right, and finally, let's talk about potentials. So, if you're familiar with a game like Path of Exile, you've probably seen a system fairly similar to this, but don't let this intimidate you. It is nowhere near as complicated as a game like Path of Exile. So, how does this work? Well, with each character level, you're going to get some potential points or some potentials that you can allocate on this tree. Now, you know, as of right now, system isn't fully min max. So my recommendation would be to obviously opt for a little bit more damage, especially for a build like mine. So I'm opting to hit a lot of these red nodes that give bonus attack as well. But there are also defensive nodes, as you can see. And I am pathing towards multi-shot, which is my main DPS ability. I'm increasing the projectile number of my multi-shot by 1. Now, obviously, our builds are going to be fairly different, but you can go ahead and check out each individual tree is set up fairly similarly. So you shouldn't really have a problem when trying to figure out what you want to do with your potentials tree. Now, we are soft cap right now. So we're not seeing the full extent of what this is going to look like as we get into the mid and late game of Mad World. But for right now, this system is fairly simple and straightforward. You can see detailed stats of your potentials tree by clicking this details button in the bottom. And as we can see, I'm opting for a lot of crit, increased critical damage, a little bit of hit rate, and a lot of bonus attack damage. So again, not super complicated, this system yet. Again, as we start to progress into the mid and late game, we might see more and more complicated pathing. But for now, this system is fairly straightforward. That's it. That is your crash course on how to optimize your gear in Mad World Age of Darkness so far. Again, I will keep you guys updated if any major changes are made to how these systems in Mad World works, but I do want to let you guys know I will be releasing weekly Mad World videos on this channel. So if you are interested in more informative Mad World content, go ahead and hit that sub button. I'll see you in the next one.